Welcome back, everybody. And Jeff, you emailed me today an email saying you called it with this YouTube video attached. Explain
Uh,
yourself. What does this mean?
I think we both called it in our previous one. I do want to relate it to actually back to our very first recording, but this is a video that just came out that is definitely, at least from what I've seen so far earlier today, got a pretty mixed reaction. I think for a reason that people will pick out pretty darn fast. So why don't we go ahead and play it, and
All
then we can
right.
talk about, why. So it's real short, real quick. If you haven't seen it before, boom, here it is, and then we'll get into the weeds. Go ahead.
All right.
The world is broken. Many, many years ago, men who were born with great power believed they could cage darkness itself.
Sassy.
The arrow.
That's some sassy Moiraine right there. Everybody's got to be a little sassy in the show now.
Well, we know it's how are you going to be the next Game of Thrones if
How
you're
are you
not,
going to
right?
be the next Game of Thrones without it?
Can't do it. Can't do it.
When they failed, the seas boiled. Mountains were swallowed up. Cities burned.
Map! Jeff, are you excited about Map?
I do. Killing me. I do love maps. I do love the maps.
Okay. Maybe we'll get another close up of that map.
If we're lucky.
And the women of the Aes Sedai were left to pick up the pieces. These women remembered one thing above all else. The man who brought the breaking of the world. And him they named Dragon. Now this man has been born again. We don't know where or to whom, if he was reborn as a girl or a boy. The only thing we know for certain is that this child is coming of age now, and we must find them before the dark does.
All right. I like how these ads popped up.
Yeah, I know, right?
thanks
Everybody.
for thanks for ruining our video, guys.
Why? Why Amazon? Why? Why YouTube? Really, actually, I should say.
Amazon is advertising within their advertisements for. I mean, that's how you got to do. That's how you got to do it now.
Apparently, so we'll start doing that. So, I think you might have a sense as to why this is getting the reaction it is. Apparently, from what I was reading, and this was, second, third hand information, even Brandon Sanderson, who's gotten to see some of this stuff early, I think even acted a bit as a consultant, did say that there was going to be a big change that fans may not be happy with. Maybe this is it. Maybe it's something else. Obviously, I think you're going to say it. What do
Okay,
you think?
so this was not. This now cannot be just called Aes Sedai speak. Like in the last one, when we kind of brought up, oh, one of these five is gonna be the
Yeah,
one, and I
right.
was like, what? What are the five? And then like a bunch of people in the comments were like, oh, she's just Aes Sedai speaking. Technically, it will
Yeah,
be one of the five. And I was like, okay, okay, I
right.
feel that. I'm
I,
feeling
I
that.
enjoyed those responses. I enjoyed them.
Yeah,
But I was going to say, in that video, we did say how our bet was that they're making the show more inclusive. And we can see that from other choices that they've made. And then right here, bomb
right.
drop,
So here she
right?
says, we don't know whether
Mhm.
it's a girl or a boy. I forget what she said. So we don't
Yeah,
know. Dragon Reborn
right.
could be any of the five. And so she wasn't Aes Sedai
Straight up.
speaking. She really
Hmm.
is saying that. That so I'm like in one universe I'd be like kind of fine with this, but this feels like it's really going to cascade to like a lot of changes. Like, how do you make it that men go crazy? Like, the whole problem with the Dragon Reborn is that we're scared of him going crazy again, right? So, like, if the
Yeah,
Dragon Reborn is one of the girls, problem solved. We're good.
right.
Wrap it up in one book, everybody. Let's go home, right? Like, because, like, there wouldn't be a
Single
problem
book,
then, right? Am
right.
I off?
No, no. I mean, that's definitely was my thought initially too. I did try to read as many responses as they could to this,
Mm.
and the counter argument to that is that, well, the dragon's still going to be causing the breaking of the world regardless. So,
But it
either
won't
way.
be
Um,
crazy.
Right, right. And so then the idea is there that if this is true, then everyone would be hoping for a female dragon, of
Right,
course, because if you
right.
get to pick, right? Like,
We got
hey,
a
we're gonna get
40%
one of these two,
chance. That's not that
right?
those odds aren't too bad. I'll take that.
It's not.
40%
It's
chance,
not.
we're
Yeah,
good.
let's go with one of the girls being the dragon reborn, right? So, this is a pretty big shakeup, and as you said, cascading effects because yeah, it means a lot of things. What about the false dragons in the past that have been all male? Are you going to have some female false dragons?
Hmm.
The whole point of the Red Ajah is to find men who can channel, who are then, going to be the ones that some of them will declare themselves as false dragons.
Hmm.
Now, it is true that there's been in the past times where just men say that they're the dragon and they're just not, they can't even channel. Um, but it does create this whole other thing that would need to be dealt with in society, which is the potential of a woman who can channel, who can be the dragon, and literally cause the breaking of the world again. Which would make people even more standoffish towards Aes Sedai than they already are.
But
So,
and it seems like they're keeping that the Aes Sedai are all women. So like how does that plot
mhm.
point work if so we must be keeping that it drives men insane.
Right. I can't imagine they're going to change that. And the thing that, everyone's saying, and I agree with, I don't think they're actually going to change who the dragon is.
Right.
I think they're just doing this for the mystery, right?
Hmm.
And listen, I would agree with that. So that's, I think that they're going in. And so I want to establish some initial reactions to it. Your reactions are pretty much what I expected. I think what a lot of people are saying. But what I want to get into, if we can, is that this idea of changing the narrative and trusting the text. So this is back to the fade. And in the very first one, where I was like, they are changing stuff that affects the way people act in the world, affects sort of the history of the world. And that to me means they either aren't thinking about the history of the world, or they just don't trust it. They don't trust that, it's important enough to matter or that it will carry the story. And this, to me, has a lot of fear behind it, that they're not trusting the actual story to work as a first season. That they need this added mystery, that they need a buy-in from other characters. And what I want to talk with you about is, are they right to mistrust the first book as an
Hmm.
opening? Meaning they looked at this and said, we need greater buy-in, which I get if you're tasked with being the next Game of Thrones. You're not just tasked with making a good show, you're tasked with getting as many people as possible. So they're trying to ride that line of how can we keep our fans interested without pissing them off too much, which this video already has. You can see it from, others, but also pull in as many new people as possible. One way we can do that is to expand who can be the dragon to everybody. Do you think that's a good move?
So
I'm curious.
your thesis is here if women watch this, if they feel like there's a possibility that one of the girls is the dragon, they'll be more engaged and more interested.
Oh, wow. Well, women or just anyone who wants to see that type of narrative, I think that's 100% why they made this
Mm.
change was try to pull in more viewers to have
Hmm.
a larger mystery and give all five of the new characters greater agency
Well, I don't know if mystery
or
gives
potential
anybody
for agency.
agency. I mean, you know how I feel about mystery. I don't think that's
I
the way to
know.
go at all. I think that's the awful way to go. I think mysteries and reveals suck. I've even saw a movie this weekend, Edgar Wright's new movie, where it was just ruined by a reveal. Just absolutely wrecked by a reveal. Please, y'all, I feel like it's endemic in modern shows and movies that everybody's like, oh, we'll put this twist in. Everybody's gonna freaking love it. And it's
Yeah.
garbage. Don't do it. Let us buy into the characters. What
Yeah.
is going to make characters engaging are engaging characters with problems that we can relate to, that with
Right.
inner character conflict that we can relate to. And that's what I did think they were going to have to change. about the show. I think
Mm,
they were gonna have to
right.
get away from this kind of interminable journey type thing and give us more of this like backstory and relationships before we get to the Two Rivers crew and do it like that to make it more engaging. I feel like if it's just gonna be about this mystery, then yeah, making that mystery. I guess like you brought in the mystery a little bit. Maybe that's more. Is guessing between five characters more interesting than guessing between three characters? I really don't know. I don't find either interesting. I don't really care.
Right. So I do wonder, I mean, who would be watching this video that isn't already a Wheel of Time fan, right? I feel like it's
Right.
hard to find who are the people that this trailer is supposed to be for, that this decision
Uh,
from the show creator is supposed to be for, right? Because this is not for the fans. Like this is not, a fan choice for the most part. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sure, there could be fans out there. Certainly, and I've thought the same. Like, wouldn't it be cool if there was, a chosen one for both, right? Like there were two halves of the dragon, a male and female half, and that there were two dragons or something like that could be cool. Or people have hypothesized that, there's the light dragon and the dark dragon you get from like the chosen stuff. So I mean, there is stuff to play with there, and I'm sure some people are interested in that idea.
mhm.
But I think for a lot of fans, sure, this doesn't bother a lot of fans, right? But what is it adding for those fans who already know the answer to this mystery? So to me, it seems that the only rationale for why they're doing this is to try to, again, appeal to as many, many people as possible. And will that work? It is, as you're saying, is that going to be what pulls people in, this continued mystery every episode of which of the five is it?
Mhm.
The main things that I'm seeing that they can use this for to try to be in the showrunner's mindset, right? Because I could just have my, fan reaction of like, what are they doing? As I already did earlier. We've seen me do this before, right? Obviously I could do that again. Maybe that's what people want to see, me sighing and being like, ugh. But since we've been down that path, just to walk an alternate one, right? So what are they thinking with this? Are they thinking, okay, now we can have more of the characters worried, maybe that they're the dragon? Though again, what is that worry? As you said, the
Mhm.
major problem with the dragon is you're going to go insane. That's why it
Right.
sucks to hear, hey, you're the dragon. You're like, I don't want to be the dragon.
Right.
That's terrible.
Right.
Whereas if it's just an Aes Sedai woman, then it's like, whoop, I'm not only an Aes Sedai, but I'm chosen to like help remake the world and hopefully make
All
it better.
upside. Nothing but upside.
So is this going to create more tension for Egwene's character, for Nynaeve's character, thinking maybe I'm the dragon?
I don't
Maybe,
know, man. I should also say,
right?
y'all, that I'm not even done the first book yet, so I don't know like how baked
Right,
in
right.
this was with this
Sure.
male female. I mean, there's two words,
Well,
right? Two S words of the magic, and one's like the male, and one's
yeah.
like the
Mm-hmm.
female. And
Saidin and
like,
Saidar. Yeah.
yeah, so
Or
I
Saidin
feel
and
like this
Saidar,
is
yeah.
all like kind of really baked in. Jordan obviously did all of this for like a reason that I don't know
Right.
yet. So like to me watching this trailer, I'm like, yeah, whatever, it could be either of them, but I also just
Mm,
sense without even knowing that like these things are going to have implications somehow. And like
right.
I don't see like if it's like some sort of like political inclusivity, I don't really see why like having this system that he set up is like anybody would have a problem with it, right? Like it's kind of like there's a separation, but it's all on the downside for men, like it doesn't
Right.
it's not like privileging the male
Mm,
characters
mm.
was something that the women can't do. It's like, oh, if you even just try to do the same thing the women can do, you go insane and you suck. And
Yeah.
like
Right.
so like nothing feels like non-inclusive to me about that. It feels like a separation, but I mean, yeah, the Aes Sedai can do all the same magic. There's nothing yeah, there's nothing that doesn't seem already inclusive about that, if that makes sense.
No, I hear what you're saying. Because yeah, it's so bad for the guys and the female Aes Sedai can do, they're fine basically. Um, So yeah, one reason I was very curious to pose it to you though was because I know the first book for you has been a bumpy ride,
Hmm.
right? And we've talked before about, oh, but the later books, they're so good. And if you are a showrunner and you might think the same thing, that you recognize the first book as a tough entry point for people, perhaps, then I can see them trying to figure out how to get around that. And I feel like this is their attempts to
Hmm.
do that. And obviously, for me, I'm like, no, please don't do that. Hire good actors, have emotional scenes between characters, have cool Trolloc costumes, right? Like, make us love the world and the characters, and then we'll want to keep following them in it, right? One of the reasons I was interested to ask you is because the first book has been bumpy. That's why I want to say, do you think this is what's going to help? And obviously, you've already responded with your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I, if the whole season is just going to be a chase, if it's going to be like a chase story, I don't think that's going to really
And a
work
mystery,
that
Steve.
well. And,
And a
and
mystery.
right, so if the whole thing's a chase and what you're adding is like a slightly more mystery than the mystery was already there. I don't see that being the fix. I think you just don't make the first season such a chase type structure. Maybe that's impossible, but like I don't know, it doesn't feel impossible to me. I mean, I guess like the thing I was saying in earlier videos is I hope that they're willing to take risks with adaptations because I generally dislike adaptations that are slavish to the material, and then we get to this change and I feel extremely ambivalent about this change because I don't know, there is maybe something about the male female dynamic of the original that I do find interesting, or like something that you can actually play with more in that separation versus collapsing that separation. But yeah, I don't know, but I'm not, if they're doing it just for mystery's sake, I'm not into it.
Yeah, cool, cool. Just a couple last things that I wanted to talk about with this. So another thing that has gotten brought up that people have reacted to is sort of Moraine's disdain for the original dragon when she's like the arrogance of it. And there's been some reactions to that of, would Moraine have that feel? Now I realize this for you is going far afield. This does not relate
Mm-hmm.
to first, but you don't know the full history of
Mm-hmm.
what happened or how it happened or how much Moraine would know. And I bring this more up as also creating this sort of pushback, right? So it casts the men and the ones who led the situation in a very negative light. Don't get me wrong, the dragon is cast in a negative light, of
Mm-hmm.
course, in the story.
Mm-hmm.
But then they do this inclusive thing. So it's just interesting to me that they're putting the men in a really bad light in the beginning, like with the arrogance, and then turning it around to then include everybody. And I think what we're seeing with some of the reactions to this is one, like, is this right? And you get all the fans coming out with like bringing up their lore and quoting text and everything. And what was fun for me is even if I loathe this change, one, at least I can understand what they're attempting to do. I don't think it's the right way of doing it, but I can see why they're doing it. Unlike the Fade, which I still don't understand why they would change something like that. If there's no purpose other than to piss me off. Or the rings. Why are you changing the rings? People have Aes Sedai rings to feel connected to the show. Did they change the ring just to have a new marketing where they can sell rings? Okay, I said I wasn't going to do this. But the point is, what I like of... Oh my goodness. Anyway, the
I didn't
point
even
is,
know the ring was different, bro. I didn't. I had no idea.
it's so
Now I
stupid
gotta
looking.
send back
Anyway,
the one that I
it's,
mail
it's
ordered yesterday.
exactly, it's
Thanks a
so
lot,
stupid
Jeff.
looking. It's so dumb looking. Anyway, point is, the upside to this is I discovered, and there are other fans out there that likely know this, I discovered that Jordan actually wrote a separate piece. It's not like a full short story or novella or anything. It's just like a little excerpt of history um, that is on the Dragon Mount site. I want to say we'll include it in the link so you can read it. It actually talks more about the history of what Lews Therin did and the lead up to the breaking of the world, which is what Moraine is talking about here in the beginning. And so regardless of, how I feel about the way this trailer come across or people are talking about it, and like I said, the reason I mentioned that first point in the way that Moraine has this disdain, I saw a lot of people reacting to it of like, oh, it feels a harsh. And I was like, well, and I saw people bring up the story, like, no, this is legit. I was like, what is the story? And I felt like I had to find out. And I got to read this piece that I've never
Oh,
read before.
really? You didn't
And
know that
I've never
existed?
read it before.
Oh,
No, I had no idea.
okay.
So for me as a fan, right, even if this makes me so worried about it, and this just like confirms other fears I've had, right? Don't get me wrong, pumped after the last one. This one definitely left a bad taste in my mouth. But regardless of that, it's let me appreciate something I love in a new way that I haven't before. And that's what I think is so cool about any adaptation being made and the way that it's bringing fans together. I feel like I've gotten to talk and see fans so much more that love this series because we can all be looking at this thing that's coming out. So whether you love the idea of a bigger mystery or you hate the idea of a bigger mystery and them doing this change, it seems like would have a massive trickle effect. At least we're all here getting to talk about something we love. And if you have never read this information about Lewis Theron before, whew, you are in for a treat. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's this super dry historical thing, but I loved it.
Yeah, I made it two
And
sentences in, bro, and I was like, no, I'm out of here. Jeff will tell me what's
it's,
important. It's cool.
yeah, the thing is, here's the cool part about it. One, as a fan, you can read and enjoy. Two, it doesn't affect anything here because we can't really know, does Moiraine know that story or not? Does she just have a more traditional view of the dragon? Obviously this isn't telling the full story. We going down a lot of assumption lane to think about it, which people have done and we can in the comments. I will just say this way she talked about it inspired a lot of people to do some research. I was one of them, found this thing, and it's just a fun part for people to read. The only last thing I would quickly say out there is that in the comments, I saw a lot of people saying, what is happening? I'm so worried. This has now made me scared. Why are they doing this? And I saw a lot of people responding like, it's not a big deal. Like, don't worry about like, what are you stressing out about? Why? Like, it's not that big a change, right? And I would just put out there one like final little thought, which is, this is something a lot of people really love, of course. This is something that people, to get to see this come out in a movie is like, or a show, is like a dream. And I think we can all agree that this is a change. So I would just put out there maybe a little compassion for the people that are feeling like, what are they doing to something that I deeply love? And sure, we can make counter arguments, which I think is really, really cool. And obviously, anyone can say anything they want. But what I found really cool in the comments, and I hope maybe we can get some of that here, is people not just downplaying somebody else's feelings about something, but talking about why it could be a rationale, which is why I tried to approach this conversation the way I did. One comment that I thought was really cool, and this we are going to actually get into spoilers with this last one. This last thing I got to say is, if the idea is that the dragon is someone that's going to be a huge deal, that means we're coming to the end of an age, it's a breaking, oh my goodness, it's already pretty scary. And then you find out who the dragon actually is, it's like, oh, now we're really just, it's done now. And so I could see that adding like an extra level of tension. And so I thought it was cool to kind of approach it with that mindset if we are going to talk about why it is okay to have it this way. But I also want to put out there to all the people that are feeling a little concerned or worried about this, I feel you, I hear you. Let's all hope for the best, right? Maybe.
Jeff,
Maybe it'll
just
all work out.
please, can you assure me one thing? This is not going to
Mm-hmm.
be like the latest like culture war
Mm-hmm.
fight over a dumb pop culture thing that we have to suffer through. I don't really want to like
Oh, this is He-Man incoming. This
no,
is if you're asking
no,
me if this is He-Man
no,
incoming,
no.
this is you.
I
That's what this
don't want
trailer is
like
showing.
everything. How does everything become one of these fights now? And it's just
Uh,
aren't y'all tired of it? I'm tired. I have no energy for these like for these fights over these
so
things.
okay, so I do think this leads to just one last interesting talking point, which is real quick, which is one, I hear you about the I get both sides. Like one, like why be so passionate about something? It's just a show. Obviously, there's other things in our world and society that we could be pouring this passion into, right? But we have hobbies that we like, and when we are engaging in those hobbies, it's going to be a passionate thing. So I think people are going to have bigger reactions
Hmm.
to things they care a lot about. I think that's natural to a degree. Should we put all our energy into that? Of course not, right? But for the moment that we do, hey, it can be sort of fun to have big feelings about something. Two, I do wonder how much of this is what, Hollywood, if you will produce. Because it feels like sometimes that, oh, Hollywood okay a project that is a known IP that has a built-in audience, right?
Mm.
But maybe the people that are running it don't actually want to tell that story, or they want to tell a story that's like adjacent to that story.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, you know what? I'm going to use this known IP as a vehicle for my agenda of telling a story. And I'm not saying it's always that purposeful or that insidious, but I could see someone being like, I can't get my own brand new idea approved for millions of millions of
Right.
dollars, but I can get it on this, and then on this, and then I'll do some of my own things.
Right, right.
And I think what we're seeing as a backlash to that is obviously if someone is incredibly skilled, yeah, maybe they can make some changes and make it amazing, and we're like, oh my goodness, that was better than the original, or it was a completely different take on the original, and I appreciate it for different reasons. I think the problem is you see people doing that and then messing it up, or you see I'm coming in with a certain set of expectations as a fan. You're using a known IP to get me to watch it, but then you're not delivering on my expectations. So now I'm frustrated and angry, and I think that's what we saw a lot with like the He-Man.
And that explains why we're having these fights constantly. Because if it was just an original, there'd be zero controversy. You could do literally
Right.
whatever with your
Yeah.
original thing, and
Yeah.
like nobody
Do
can
it.
say Jack. That's because that's
Exactly.
your thing. So
Hmm.
this is maybe just an inevitable symptom, I don't know, symptom
Yeah.
consequence of constantly reusing old IPs
Oh my
and bringing
goodness.
those that because that's the only thing that we can seem to do now at this point that
Right?
that
Like
this
all
is
they'll make.
inevitable and these fights are always going to
Yeah.
happen and it's always going to be
Yeah.
miserable.
And I think, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think any fan in any genre can feel this way, but to
Mhm.
me, at least as a fantasy fan, it feels especially true because there aren't that many. Like, obviously, we're getting a lot more these days, but the fact is, I would love it if they did more original IP fantasy. Please come out with new.
Mhm.
We can all say what we want about Bright, right? But that was at least a new thing that came
Right.
out on Netflix written for it. Yes, yes, give me more. I mean, sure, people would say it's derivative of Shadowrun and so on, whatever. But the point is, that, like, that was at least a new fantasy IP. Like, make a new fantasy IP if
Mhm.
you want. If you're gonna make something that's got a huge trail of decades of people that are tied to it, you're probably gonna want to stick to the source material a decent amount, or you're gonna get some frustrated fans. And are some of these changes you're making really worth it? Are they really going to accomplish what you are hoping that they will? We'll
Well,
see.
we will find out. I just want to see
Yeah.
this thing now. Come on, the
Right?
19th. Let's just get here. I
Right?
just want to see it.
I know, right? I can't wait. Let's do
Get
this.
reacting.
Let's do it. Just despite some of my concerns that are coming up here, I just can't wait, as I'm sure all you can't either. We're almost there, everybody.
All right.
We're
Well,
almost there.
everybody, let us know what you think down below.
Mhm.
Let's not fight. Let's not fight. Nobody fight. Just don't do it. I'm tired. I'm
I
too
just say
tired.
I'm just gonna say let's be compassionate for each other. I understand each other's like why people are coming into this with so much passion and respect that as we can, right? As we're all excited, I think, for a similar thing.
All right. We'll see you in the next one, everybody.
See you then.